Just past midnight there, as you can see from the clock that we had up there on the right-hand corner of your screen. You continue to see the riot police moving forward, the protesters running back, and it sort of ends up in a standoff for a few moments, as we saw, Sue, and then it picks up in its activity again as the riot police continue to move forward.
Exactly. It's not. I don't think it has quite reached its peak yet, from what we can see with these particular photos and this live shot that we're getting out of Hong Kong. It is a very heavy police presence, much bigger than we have seen in the past. Last week we did see a small number of police outside of government buildings, but this is the largest response that we have seen so far, and the most physical response that we have seen so far against the protesters. The protesters basically want the extradition bill withdrawn, which China has refused to do, and which Hong Kong leaders, who, by the way, are employed by China, have refused to do. So the issue is the Hong Kong leaders and the protesters feel as though the Hong Kong leaders are aligned with China and not with them. But China now governs Hong Kong, so it is a complicated measure. The protesters have said repeatedly that the officials are not responding to them. They want the extradition bill withdrawn, and we should note that that extradition bill also applies to foreigners. So if you are a foreigner doing business in Hong Kong and you are accused of wrongdoing, you could be extradited to China for trial, not in Hong Kong. And that is what began this protest. And as I said, we do have these marches every July 1st, but this is the first time that we've seen this kind of response to that anniversary, Scott.
It's the 22nd anniversary, in fact, Sue, of the handover by Britain to China. And they've been calling for the resignation of the chief executive of Hong Kong.
Yes.
That's at the center of all of this, as you were, Sue, describing it just moments ago, the unrest and unhappiness with the government there. And this is how it has sort of spilled into the streets and appears to be on the verge of getting even worse than it's been.
It does. It seems that way from the pictures that we are seeing. Carrie Lam is the Hong Kong official that the protesters want to resign. She has steadfastly refused to do that. She has said that she understands the concerns of the protesters, but that she is beholden to China, and Chinese officials have doggedly refused to back down on the extradition bill. And I do think, from what our reporting has indicated, that the extradition bill was somewhat of a surprise to Hong Kong residents. It was ushered in quietly, but then when businesses and individuals heard about it, they started to coalesce in these protests. And I think people basically are scared of what that extradition bill means for business, for the government, for their individual freedoms and their individual rights. And we are increasingly seeing pro-democracy slogans being spray-painted not only in government buildings, but around the city in various areas. I have not seen casualties yet, as I'm looking at the same live feed that you're looking at, Scott, and our audience is looking at. And so far, I have seen tear gas and I've seen the police advancing, but I have not, at this point, seen casualties. I don't know if you have.
The only reports that I see, Sue, are reports of several injured, perhaps dozens of people, maybe some of those in more serious condition, as these protests have taken a more violent turn and appear to be heading in that direction and not in any way taking a cooling off feeling to it at all. So reports of dozens thus far injured, some at least in serious condition, but those are the early reports that we've been watching, Sue.
Indeed. And Scott, as we continue to monitor the situation, I'm just trying to listen into what that police officer was saying to the cameraman. There are several camera people down there as we see this latest flank of police move in. That's a shot from up above from one of the roofs of a nearby building shooting down into the square. The other shots that you have been seeing are from our camera people or the local affiliate there down in among the police. So that's a wider shot earlier this morning. I mean, just a moment ago. that flank of police officers moving in now. So as we watch this group of police moving in, and we should note that this is a different shot than we had before. So obviously, from what I'm seeing, you're seeing police at different positions in the square move in. And as Scott mentioned earlier, they're trying to keep the protesters back and contained as much as possible, which is why you'll see several different flanks of police officers moving in as we continue to look at this live picture. As Scott mentioned, there apparently are injuries. Some of them may be serious. This protest started on July 1st, which is the anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong to China. It is linked to the extradition bill that is being put in place by China. The Hong Kong protesters obviously are against that. Hong Kong officials are standing firm in implementing that. Carrie Lam, who is the executive in Hong Kong, who is basically charged with putting in place this extradition bill, has refused numerous calls for her to step down. We should note that British allies in the UK have urged calm. They have urged China to reconsider putting in place the extradition bill. However, that was a spokesperson for UK Prime Minister about a week and a half ago. But Carrie Lam said no, she will put it in place because she is beholden to China, and that basically triggered another round of protests. So this is a full second week of protests, but Scott, as I mentioned, it is the most intense that we've seen so far.